Hi, Miss Monroe. Thank you so much for coming in today. I know in your email you said you were a little confused about Kylie's test results. I'd be more than happy to go over them with you and answer any questions you may have.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So as you can see, we're going to be going over the General Test of Achievement, which is the test we give out once a year to see what knowledge students have gained from our instruction in these particular subjects. From there, we can see if we need to change anything in our instruction or curriculum based on the results. Here at the top, we have my name, the name of the school, as well as our school district, Kylie's name, her grade level, and the date that the test was given, which was back in March. Here we have her student ID, which is important for you because you need it to look up anything you'd like to know as far as how Kylie's doing. You can do so in our school portal.
I think I remember reading something about that. I'm just not sure how to access it.
Oh, okay. Well, here's an easy guide with the instructions, and it includes where to go on our school website to access Kylie's grades, test scores, and her portfolio.
Great, thank you.
Feel free to email me with any additional questions about that. So back to the test results. There's two sections here. The top section is called the Norm Reference Test Information, which gives us the information on how Kylie scores compare to students in the same grade level across the nation who have taken the same test. That is what we call a norm group. For these tests here, our norm group is made of 764 third graders in the state of Texas. The bottom section is called Criterion Referenced Test Information, which gives us information on how Kylie performs on a specific standard or objective. Does that make sense? Please feel free to stop me anytime if you have any questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. But is Kylie failing most of these subjects? Because these scores look really low.
Oh no, she's actually doing quite well. That's a common question from parents. These are percentiles, not percentages. Let's go over the subtests and how each one is scored. So for example, reading is broken down into vocabulary, word analysis, and reading comprehension. The first column represents the total number of questions that are in each test and even shows specifically how many questions are in each subtest. The second column contains the raw scores, which is how many questions Kylie answered correctly in each of the subtests. Then we have the national percentiles. If you look at this bell curve and take total reading, for example, you'll see that she's in the 53rd percentile, which means she did better than 53% of the students who took this test across the nation. Now, if you look back at this paper, you will see percentile bands. This is known as a standard error of measurement. So if she were to take this test again, she would likely score somewhere between 3 percentiles less or 3 percentiles more than her original score. For example, she scored in the 53rd percentile in reading, so this band represents the range of 50 to 56. As for this column, the scale scores, which are converted raw scores, that use a new scale to represent a student's performance, scale scores can show growth over several years when compared with the same norm group. You can refer to this bell curve here. Right next to the GTA scores, General Test of Achievement, it shows a range of 200 to 800, 500 being the average. So for reading, if her scale score is 508, that's right around average, as you can see here on the bell curve.
Okay, that makes more sense now. I know my daughter should be doing really well in reading, especially because we read together every night and I'm always noticing improvement.
Yes, and I can't tell you how much I truly appreciate the parental involvement and help at home. I can tell when kids have been working on their skills at home with someone, and Kylie is one of my strong readers.
It helps me that she's so eager to read and learn more. I was also wondering what the basic battery and complete battery means here on the bottom.
The basic battery is just based on these core subjects. We do a lot of reading and math, more so than science and social studies. So these are considered our basics, and everything together, including the social studies and science, falls under the complete battery.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
So once again, the Criterion Referenced Information is a test that gives us information on how each student performs on a specific standard or objective. Take a look down the list and see if there's any subtest areas that you don't understand or any that you may have any questions about.
How do you test on listening?
Well, I'll give students specific instructions on what to do on a test and then see how they respond and how well they perform based on the instructions I've given. Now let's start going over the scores for the criterion-based information. This first column here is the raw score. The score is once again the number of questions Kylie has answered correctly. The second column is the number of possible answers she could have gotten correct. For example, in reading, she scored 26 questions correctly when there were 36 questions total, which means she missed 10 questions. Does that make sense?
Yes, but what does this low, medium, and high mean?
Well, the low, medium, and high columns tell us how Kylie is doing on each particular skill. It's kind of like below average, average, and above average. A group of experts are the ones who decide the cutoff points for each skill. For example, Kylie is doing about average on her vocabulary skills and above average on her language skills.
Okay, I see now.
Now I wanted to go into more detail about some of these skills. Kylie does really well with structural analysis, which is simply breaking apart a word to determine its meaning by looking at the base word, prefixes, and or suffixes. Let me show you some examples of Kylie's work from her portfolio. Here, I gave the students a list of similar words. They had to break them down to determine the meaning and write what they came up with next to the word. So as you can see here, Kylie determined that the word disagree means does not agree. She does a great job with this. She only determined one word incorrectly, but she breaks down words really well and is good at determining the meaning of them. Another one of Kylie's strong points is life science. She seems to take much interest in learning how the body works.
Oh yeah, she always found that kind of stuff very interesting.
Yes, she was so excited when we learned all about how the brain works. She picked up the different parts of the brain and their functions fairly quickly. Let me show you this activity we did. She labeled every single part of the brain correctly and described their functions as well.
Yes, I remember her coming home and telling me all about the human brain and how it works. She was so enthusiastic about it.
She's a very bright student. Now let's talk about some of her scores that were a bit lower and discuss how we can possibly bring them up. For numeration, she seems to be struggling a bit. She has trouble converting numbers into their words. For example, here she wrote 55 instead of 55. What you can do that might help her with numeration is have her practice writing her tens out, as in 10, 20, 30, and so on. But be sure she understands what number she's writing out. It's just writing the first part of the number that she seems to be struggling with, as you can see here. You can also take it a step further and throw in some other numbers.
Great, we can definitely work on that at home together. Is there anything else she's struggling with?
Well, another skill that I wanted to talk about is her phonetic analysis of consonants. She seems to have trouble making the sound of two consonants. For example, here in this analysis, I had her read me this paragraph. From the word change, she had trouble figuring out what the sound C and H make together. So maybe at home you can have her practice writing and reading words such as chart, shoe, and thin, just so she can get some practice with sounds that two different consonants make together. And I can make some time to work individually with her on that as well, with similar words.
Okay, thank you. I sure will work on that with her.
No problem. All this stuff just takes some time and practice. I'm sure she'll get it down in no time. Now, the last thing I'd like to talk about is her language skills. She did amazing in all those areas. Her capitalization, punctuation, usage, and sentence structure scores are really high. I had the students write about the field trip we went on and their favorite part about it, and as you can see from Kylie's paper here, she has a capital in the beginning of every sentence. She also has some kind of punctuation, whether it's a period or exclamation point at the end of every sentence. She also uses complete sentences, which is a common struggle for most students, so I'm very proud of her.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad.
Do you have any questions? I know we covered a lot. If you'd like to go over something again, I'd be glad to.
No, I think that covers everything. Again, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. This conference has been very helpful and informative. Now I know what I need to spend a little more time on with Kylie at home.
I'm so glad it was helpful. If you have any more questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to email me, or you can also give me a call if it's urgent. Here is a handout with some of the information regarding the scores of the test. It basically covers everything we've talked about with a little more detail, and it also provides some examples of each subtest to make it clearer.
Okay, I'll be sure to keep that handy. Thank you again, Miss Brenning. Have a great day.
You're more than welcome, Miss Monroe. I look forward to seeing you and Kylie next week. Have a wonderful weekend and feel free to call or email anytime.
Thank you.